A trolley car is hurtling down a line towards 5 people. You are a bystander next to a lever. If you do nothing, those 5 people will be smashed. If you pull the lever, the trolley will be diverted to a B line where there is 1 person. Do you pull the lever, saving the 5 people and killing the 1, or do you do nothing and let the 5 people die? This is the bystander trolley problem. It's a problem I find really interesting and I've been thinking a lot. My name is Buck Kansas. Here's some of my thoughts. The trolley car problem was created by Philippa Foot. It was iterated on by Judith Thomson, and then it was brought into the public consciousness through a number of pop culture references, most thoroughly in The Good Place, where Chidi Onagonia fails to come up with an answer and it causes him immense stress. So hopefully today I can help you find an answer to the trolley car problem. When people are asked the bystander trolley problem, people typically pull the lever. It's about a 60-40 split. I want to talk about reasons not to pull the lever later, but for now, let's talk about pulling the lever. When asked, why do you pull the lever? In my experience, most people say, well, I'd rather have 1 dead than 5 dead. And I think that's an imprecise answer to why they're making this choice. So to drill down into that answer, I ask a follow-up scenario. I ask the large man trolley problem. In the large man trolley problem, instead of having a lever, you are now a bystander on a bridge next to a very large man. If you push the large man off the bridge, he'll fall and splat onto the trolley line, then get hit by the trolley car, dying, and his large form will stop the trolley car, saving the 5 people. Do you push the large man? Most people say no. Even after being asked the standard bystander problem, if you then ask the large man, most people will say no. They switch their answers. The question is why? Why do most people have these competing moral intuitions where they say yes to the lever and no to pushing the large man? One option is that our moral intuitions are wrong. One or the other, maybe both. And so you could try to figure out, well, I think I'm clearly right when I'm pulling the lever, so I must be wrong when I'm refusing to push the large man. I should push the large man. Or you could say, well, I know it's wrong to push the large man, so it must be wrong to pull the lever. I actually will change my answer. I won't pull the lever. The other option is that both moral intuitions are right. Generally, when you have competing moral intuitions, I would rather try to find a way to synergize them, honestly, than decide one is right and one is wrong. So in this case, I think that's doable, and I'd like to explain why. The trolley car problem was created to discuss the doctrine of double effect, and I think it helps us distinguish between these two situations. So, the doctrine of double effect was come up with by Thomas Aquinas in his Summa Theologica, and it basically says, nothing hinders one act from having 2 effects, only one of which is intended, while the other is besides the intention. So, in more simple terms, if you take an action that has good effects and bad effects, it's possible to only mean to do the good effects, not the bad effects, and so you're allowed to do it. In particular, when you drive to the grocery store, your car excretes pollutants, so you have good effects of getting food and bad effects of polluting your environment. Are you allowed to take that action? Thomas Aquinas would say yes, because you don't intend to pollute, even though you know you're going to. You intend to go get food. This has been drilled down on a little bit more since the Summa Theologica, and 4 conditions have been determined necessary for the doctrine of double effect to apply. 1, the act must be morally good or at least indifferent. 2, you must not will the bad effect. If you could get the good effect and not the bad effect, you would. 3, the good effect must be caused by the action at least as directly as the bad effect. What this means is that the good effect can't be caused by the bad effect. 4, the good effect must be good enough to compensate for the bad effect. So you do a weighing of the good and bad effects at the end and see that, okay, the good effect does outweigh the bad effect. Let's apply that to the bystander trolley problem. 1, is the action morally good or neutral? Yes, you're pulling a lever, that's a morally neutral act. 2, are you willing the bad effect? No. If the person on the B line were to spring up and run away, that'd be the ideal scenario. 3, is the good effect caused by my action at least as directly as the bad effect? Yes. Pulling the lever equally directly saves the 5 people and kills the 1 person. 4, is the good effect enough to compensate for allowing the bad effect? For my money, this is where the people who don't pull the lever mostly disagree. Mostly they disagree on the weighing aspect, but for people who do pull the lever, the answer is yes. Killing one person is of less moral weight than saving 5 people. So they will kill one person to save 5 people. We'll get into the opposite later. But that means that the 4 conditions are met, the doctrine of double effect applies, you're allowed to intend to save the 5 people and not intend to kill the 1 person and take the action. How does this work with the large man trolley problem? So, 1, is the action morally good or neutral? I'd argue it's neutral. You're pushing a large man. Pushing somebody, it can be bad, it can be good. You could be pushing them out of the way of danger to save them. So I don't think pushing a man is enough information to know is that morally good or bad. I think it has to be neutral. 2, am I willing the bad effect? No. If the large man turns out to be Superman or somehow else miraculously survives the impact with the trolley car, I am thrilled. I would most prefer for him to survive along with the 5 people. 3, is the good effect caused by my actions at least as directly as the bad effect? No. This is where it unambiguously fails. My action of pushing the large man directly causes his death, and his death causes the 5 people to be saved. The good effect is caused by the bad effect. I'm not allowed to do this. And then 4th, is the good effect enough to compensate for the bad effects? That's probably the same as before, so however you came out before is the answer. Regardless, this scenario fails on prong 3, and so the doctrine of double effect says you're not allowed to push him. So that's a way to synergize the belief that you can pull the lever and you can't push the large man. So now let's look at why you might not have pulled the lever in the first place. The academic attack on the doctrine of double effect focuses on the second prong. You must not will the bad effect. When I talked about the large man trolley problem, I argued that I could avoid willing the bad effect because if the large man was Superman or miraculously survived, then I'd be thrilled. But even proponents of the doctrine of double effect take issue with that kind of answer. They say that the bad effect of the large man dying is what I expect to happen, and it's so connected with my action of pushing him that I can't avoid willing the bad effect. I know it's going to happen. I've taken action to cause it to happen, and then it happens. It's not entirely clear how that's different from willing the bad effect to happen. Yet it seems like when you're pulling the lever, there's some kind of distance that insulates you, that allows you to actually only will the good and not the bad. But it's not clear where that boundary line extends. Why is it that pushing a large man is close enough that I can't separate my will, but pulling the lever is far enough that I can? It's this really murky argument of degree, and it makes it hard to administer the doctrine of double effect. But while that's academically what most people take issue with the doctrine of double effect, I didn't find anybody who made that kind of argument to me. Typically, when somebody told me that they didn't want to pull the lever, I followed up by asking them, okay, what if we make the number of people on the main line an infinite number of people? And even there, they said, no, I wouldn't pull the lever. So to them, the issue seemed to hinge on number 4, is the good effect enough to compensate for the bad effect? And all of their answers follow the trend of killing one person is so infinitely bad that I will not do it, no matter how many people I have to let die. So they'd let die any number of people to avoid killing one person. Now, I've been really particular in using that language of killing and letting die. I want to suss out why that's an important difference. Letting someone die is bad. If you, I presume an adult, were at a knee-high pool and you saw a child drowning and you chose not to save them, that's bad. You've done something bad. You have a duty to help people, particularly to help children. It would cost you nothing to save a child drowning in a knee-high pool, so it is unambiguously bad to let them die. At the same time, if you picked a child up and chucked them in a pool knowing that they would drown, that's worse. killing a child is worse than letting a child die. Really clearly. The question at hand is whether letting 5 children die is worse than killing 1 child. That's a little bit murkier. That's a little bit harder to distinguish. And that seems to be what's key for everybody I've talked to who doesn't pull the lever. You're kind of doing this balancing scale. On one side, you're killing 1 person and saving 1,000 people. On the other side, you're letting 1,000 people die. Which one of those carries more weight? For people who do pull the lever, killing 1 person and saving 1,000 people is lighter, is less bad than letting 1,000 people die. So you shouldn't let 1,000 people die. You should kill 1 person and save 1,000. People who don't pull the lever are saying that killing 1 person, even if offset by saving 1,000 people, is worse than letting 1,000 people die. So you shouldn't kill 1 person. You should let 1,000 people die. This is really interesting to me. I don't hold this view. And so I've tried to get a good grasp on it. I've tried to understand why killing 1 person is so incredibly bad. And generally, I found 2 answers. First, in more secular people I've talked to, they kind of make a Batman argument against killing, where they say that they're in charge of their own morality, their own moral standing, and that to kill even 1 person would so degrade and taint themselves that there's no telling how much evil they might do, and it is a fundamental betrayal of self that is of infinite moral evil. The more religious people tend to say something like they'd go to hell if they killed 1 person, that killing 1 person is an evil action, and so it would taint their soul as the actor, and then they would be going into eternal torment. So eternal torment is worse than temporary suffering. Ergo, they should choose not to kill anyone. I think that's an argument that has some legs, although personally, I don't think pulling the lever is evil. I think I buy the doctrine of double effect. I think you can will the good effect while not willing that bad effect. But I can respect that kind of disagreement. That's going to be all I want to say about the trolley car for this video. We've talked about it quite a lot. I think that's enough to give you some comfort in whatever your answer was, whether you're pulling the lever or not pulling the lever. But there's certainly a lot more to talk about with the trolley car. Pictured here is a alternate of the trolley car problem where you make it 1 loop, and I don't totally get it, but there are moral philosophers who think this fundamentally changes the problem, and people who say they wouldn't pull the lever then say, oh, well, it's fine to pull the lever if it's actually a looped track. I'm probably not going to look into that answer, so you can do that on your own time if you would like. But videos I do want to talk about that I've already scripted, I want to talk about using the trolley car problem as a trap, ways I don't like that people ask the trolley car problem. And then I also want to make a video on bad answers to the trolley car problem, answers that I think are bad. Someday I hope to make a video talking about practical implications, because self-driving cars have made more practical implications for the trolley car problem, but that's probably not going to happen for a while. So these have been some of my initial thoughts on the trolley car problem. My name is Buck Kansas. Please share your thoughts below in the comments, and like, share, and subscribe. It really helps out the video. Tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me why I'm right. Have fun with it. For now, thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye.